Hello, Russell, Literature Confidential, and I hope you're all having a good day. This is New Year's Eve here. Well, by the time I put this up, it'll be New Year's Day in Australia, so Happy New Year's, everyone. And I want to cap off this year and start the new year by talking about an essay collection. Now, I don't read much in terms of essays or journalistic writing. Probably David Foster Wallace, the most I've ever read by someone, but I've heard so much about Joan Didion, who is referred to as the Queen of California, the quintessential writer, reporter about California. The book I read was The White Album, an absolutely phenomenal piece of work, published in the late 70s, showing writings that date back to about 1968. The book itself takes place from 1968 through the 70s, pretty much after the whole counterculture movement of the 1960s. Born in 1934, she is in her mid-80s and she is still writing, which is a great thing. She's got a new book coming out in the next few months, which will follow two highly esteemed works, albeit very personal works, Blue Nights and The Year of Magical Thinking, which was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. Both books, I'm sure you're well aware of, deal with extremely personal subject matter for her. The death of her husband, Jonathan Dunn, who was an esteemed writer in his own right. He was very highly well regarded. And then of her daughter, Quintana, who was adopted in the 1960s. The book, Year of Magical Thinking, was actually turned into a play, which starred none other than Vanessa Redgrave, and apparently was quite good, so there's that as well. She started reading at the age of 5 and spent her adolescence typing out Ernest Hemingway books to get an idea of sentence structure, which is eerily similar to what Hunter S. Thompson used to do, just to get an idea of how to get into a rhythm of writing books. She won an essay contest during her senior year at Berkeley, California, and after graduating with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, moved to New York to be a research assistant for the Vogue magazine. And it was during that time where she also began writing her first novel, Run River, which wasn't an immediate bestseller. It was part of just an underground cult book. And through that, Jonathan Dunn, who was helping edit the book, and a year later they were married and moved in together. So that's how they met. They moved back to California in 1968, and that's when she published the essay collection Slouching Towards Bethlehem, which was released about a decade before The White Album, and it's the one that catapulted her superstardom. Everyone wanted a piece of Joan Didion after this book came out. I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I intend on reading it. Other works of hers include the fiction novel Played As It Lays, which was a massive success and was even turned into a movie the following year, and her non-fiction work Salvador, which is based on a 2-week trip she took to the country during their civil war and documented it all. That's another one I want to read. It sounds absolutely awesome. But that's enough of her backstory. Let's talk about The White Album. Even those of you who do not know her or have read her work will be aware of this sentence. We tell ourselves stories in order to live. That is the opening sentence of the opening essay, which is called The White Album, of which the book is titled after. It is a collection of works previously published in Life and Esquire, and is mainly a composition of vignettes, memoir, criticism, and journalism, focusing on the history and politics of California in the late 60s and early 70s. Now, she's been referred to, or her style has been referred to, as unsentimental, and I actually didn't find that. I've read stuff by Ernest Hemingway before, and I've read reportings of Hunter S. Thompson, that sort of thing, so I'm used to that sort of style where basically the author tackles things first and foremost as a reporter. But she has a way of constructing sentences which just make you absolutely envious of her. You'll read pages and pages and pages and think, how is she able just to do this, you know? And it's powerful stuff. It's a really well-written book. It's amazing, actually. It's one of those books where, The White Album itself is quite short. It's about 220 pages, but you could finish it in a matter of hours. I mean, I read the title essay like that, and usually with bits of non-fiction, it takes me quite a long time to read it, but I actually got through the essay, which is about 40 pages, in like half an hour. It was wonderful. It's a wonderful piece of non-fiction. The title essay itself, The White Album, is named after the Beatles' album, The White Album, which itself was a direct influence on Charles Manson and the Manson murders, or what's commonly known as the Tate LaBianca murders. And what's interesting is that in this essay, she actually goes and meets with Linda Kasabian, who did not go to jail for it. She was one of the ones that, although she went to the house that night, she actually didn't go inside and kill anyone. So she testified against them. And And Joan Didion goes and meets her for a bunch of times, and even goes dress buying with her at one point. So she spends quite a bit of time with Linda Kasabian, and it's quite a very interesting part of the story. I think the White Album is my favourite essay of the entire collection. There's just so many things going on. That's just one part of it. Another part of it is where she goes to a Doors recording session. This is the band The Doors. She's going to the recording session for their third album, and everyone is bored out of their minds because they're sitting around waiting for Jim Morrison to show up, and he doesn't show up for a long time. Finally he shows up, sits down on a couch, and doesn't say anything for about an hour. And in that time, Joan is so bored that she counts all the knobs on the musical equipment and counts something like 79 or 74 or something like that. So it's things like that that make this essay quite entertaining and also educational at the same time. At one point at the house, Janis Joplin shows up to party with them. She visits the Black Panthers in prison. That's a whole other section of history, so I highly recommend looking that up for a bit of educational information. And at the end of the essay, she gets diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is a disorder which affects the central nervous system, and it affected Joan for the rest of her life. And if you watch even interviews nowadays, you can see it sort of affecting her, sort of just her having trouble moving and all that sort of thing like that. So it's quite interesting, If you want to know any more about Joan, do check out the documentary Joan Didion, The Centre Will Not Hold, which was directed by her nephew. The essay itself bookends with them leaving the Franklin Avenue house, so it comes full circle. It's a marvelously written essay, wonderful, probably one of the best essays I've ever read. Another great essay by her is Good Citizens, whereby she is invited to a civil rights meeting at Sammy Davis Jr.'s house up in the Hollywood Hills. During this essay, she also talks about being present during a live debate between William Styron and author William Styron, most likely known for Sophie's Choice and Darkness is Visible, which is a memoir on depression, and actor Ossie Davis, and they are debating the book The Confessions of Nat Turner, written by Styron, and the idea of it being racist. During this debate, you also have acclaimed author James Baldwin just sitting in the middle there, almost like a moderator to the whole thing. So it's a really fascinating piece of non-fiction. And just the idea of Joan always being at these events at the right time is fascinating. Good Citizens ends with Joan Didion sitting in on an interview with a camera crew to none other than Nancy Reagan, the First Lady of the United States, although I think this was back when she was just with Ronald while he was Senator of California. I'm not quite sure. I've actually forgotten about that. If I'm totally wrong, let me know. And it's quite funny. They're talking about having her do certain things and then making her pretend to do these things while they ask her questions. And she's just enamored by the whole thing. So this Good Citizens is a very good essay. Yeah, definitely recommend checking that one out. Another great one is called Notes Towards a Dream Politic, which is separated into three parts. The first part is of a pastor who is convinced of an earthquake that is oncoming, and so he picks up his proverbial flock of people and moves them from California all the way east. The second part is about this young woman, I think she's still in high school, she's just graduated high school, who takes an ad out in Variety for her to become an aspiring actress, and it's all about Joan Didion taking her out on a drive and asking her questions. And then the third part is Joan attending a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. So you got essays which are separated into parts and have all these three, although they come across as entirely different, they're all connected in some way or other through the themes. There's an essay where she talks about the Hollywood film culture and the budget and all that sort of thing. It's a great essay if you're really into film. There's an essay where she talks about her migraines and the idea of experiencing a migraine and the way she gets inside the head of someone that has a migraine. I've never read anything quite like it. An essay on her going on a book tour with her daughter and how she speaks to people, cameramen I think it was, who describe the idea of jumpers. People who commit suicide by jumping off roofs, and how they say that a lot of them who are jumpers are actually window cleaners who fall, and Joan Didion just has this image in her mind and it never quite leaves her. There's the essay of her trip to Bogota, where she is enamored with the salt mine, which is located 50 kilometers north of the city, and 450 feet below the surface of this salt mine. In the mine itself, carved into the mountain itself, is this almost like a cathedral that can hold 10,000 people, a cathedral that can hold 10,000 people during Mass. And she's just always thinking about it, sort of thing. And it's a really bizarre essay. The essay itself is amazing, but that section of it is quite bizarre. I didn't look it up to know if this was true or if it was all just a metaphor or something like that, but it stuck with me. It's something that I'll remember. And the final essay I'll talk about is called In the Islands, where she goes on a holiday with her husband John and their young daughter, and they are on the brink of divorce, and they are stuck in a hotel room because they can't leave because an earthquake just happened nearby, and they're waiting to see if a tsunami will hit a nearby island before they go down to the beach. During this essay, there's also this famous story about From Here to Eternity, written by James Jones, and Didion is completely infatuated with it, and she talks a lot about the book itself, but I think this section in this essay, In the Islands, is her most famous piece on the book and movie From Here to Eternity, and she's talking about going to all these different places and thinking of, oh, there's that scene, there's that scene, there's that scene from that section. And that's a really great part as well. So she's clearly someone who's really in the know of movies, of literature, and just of California in general, and even Hawaii, it turns out, because this whole thing in the islands takes place in Hawaii. So that's my take on the book. The book itself is a fantastically written, well-researched piece of non-fiction. Is for anyone who has any interest in that time period of the 60s and the 70s, and more specifically of events that happened, more along American type, and I'm infatuated with it. I really like this essay collection. So let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you think I should read any more of her other stuff. I'm tempted to pick up Play It As It Lays. Sounds like a great piece of fiction writing. Other people have told me to read The Year of Magical Thinking. But yeah, thank you very much. Like, subscribe, comment. Have a good day, everyone.